Welcome everyone. Mark here from the Average Me channel, and today finds me in Springfield, Illinois, and that house you see behind me is the actual home that Abraham Lincoln lived in just before he became President of the United States and moved to Washington, D.C. Sadly, the family always intended to return, but of course, it wasn't to be. This gives you an idea of the neighborhood. Those two homes there were original, but this green space would have had houses on it back at that time. And we were told that the small house here is what the Lincoln home probably looked like before they started adding on. There's a sign here that says this view of the Lincoln home has been the most frequently photographed through the years. So how could I pass it up? I could be a unique individual or do what everybody else had done for the past 150 years. So now I'm walking down Abraham Lincoln Street, and you can see there is some green space next door to him, but when he lived here, there would have been homes. And this picture shows a Republican rally outside the home. I'm going to walk to the other side and try to get this exact angle and this exact view. And we're just about there. I can't get the exact view because this tree was, of course, not there 150 years ago. What a pleasant home Abe Lincoln has. So we're about to look at the Harriet Dean house. I don't think we can get in. But it looks like old Harriet had a house very similar to Abe's, and she was very fortunate to live right across the street from our future president. In 1838, Abraham Lincoln purchased 2 lots on this block for $300. 12 years later, he sold half a lot to Harriet Dean, and we are standing in front of the Dean house. And that is how Harriet Dean became a neighbor of Abraham Lincoln. And this is where Bill Beadle lived. And this house is just a few doors down and across the street from the Lincolns. And there is no signage by this home, so I don't know if this is the Lincoln era. But it kind of looks like it, doesn't it? It does have the same wall, because this side of the street is raised a little bit. And strolling down this sidewalk in the 1850s, I wouldn't be able to have this view of the Lincoln house I have right now because these lots I'm passing would have been built upon. The building back there, that's a Lincoln outhouse, which I discovered, by the way, is not the real Lincoln outhouse. It's a real location, but a different outhouse. It is period, it is of the time, but let's just say Abraham Lincoln did not sit there. And in that photograph, we see Abe and his 2 sons sitting right here, right on this front porch area. It's not really a porch, it's a front yard. And that's where they sat and watched the world go by. Abraham Lincoln for president, everybody. Honest old Abe. The people's choice. You better believe I'm voting for Abe. If you know what's good for you, you will too. This is very interesting. It's a real banner hanging here. And look at this, there is a marker for Henson Robinson's home. And right next to the Robinson home is an empty field. Probably a non-period building was put up here, and they took it down to maintain the feel of this historic neighborhood. And here's where attorney George Shutt lived. And unfortunately, he supported Stephen Douglas. Really? Lincoln is your neighbor and a fellow attorney. He lives 4 houses down, and you're not going to vote for him to be president? This is really interesting that this campaign wagon looks like an old log cabin. I wonder if this is legitimate or something they just came up with later, because I didn't know they did things this gimmicky way back during the Lincoln election. And there is the Lincoln House that we visited, and here is a log cabin float passing by as all of the people come to campaign. And I think that's supposed to be Mr. Lincoln right there, standing in front of his house. This is the Jesse Dubois house. He was a very good friend and supporter of Abraham Lincoln, and he was actually a pallbearer at his funeral. So I'm standing in front of the Dubois house, and there's the Lincoln home right there. 2 houses down across the street. This doesn't really look like a parade route, and it does seem kind of unusual that the parade would come right by the candidate's house. The guy who's running for the President of the United States. Can you imagine that? And Julia Sprigg lived in this house. She was a good friend of Mrs. Lincoln, and she babysat for the boys. Once again, this is, look at that. I want to show you something. What you can see between the houses. You see that? We are, of course, in Springfield, the capital. But I digress. I was going to show you this house in relationship to the Lincolns. This is the corner house. And right there, that is the Lincoln house, right here. And that's going to do it for me. From Springfield, Illinois, in the Abraham Lincoln House. I'm Mark with the Average Me Channel.